Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I'm your host, Patty G. We are here this week with Building 5, the boards that everybody loves to eat. I'm excited to sit and chat with Misti and Brumby about how they got started, their whole process, crafting of their mixes they have within the restaurant, and just the whole concept as a whole. But before we get to that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout out and thank you to the amazing sponsors that make the show possible each and every week. Government Taco, Falaya Real Estate, Lake Men's Health Center, Horizon Financial Group, Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge, Currency Bank, the bank for businesses, and you know our outfit of the day is coming to you by McClavy's Limited. Without further ado, Misti and Brumby, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all for coming on. I appreciate your time and fitting in the schedule. We had a last-minute opening, and so I'm excited this all worked out.
Yeah, we're excited as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So for those that aren't aware, who are you, what do you do, and what is Building 5?
You go ahead.
Misti Broussard, married to my husband and business partner, Brumby Broussard here. We're the owners of Building 5, a restaurant, market, bar here in Baton Rouge. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Been a wild ride. Fun ride.
Well, let's get into the ride. How did we get here? Let's take it back to how y'all met.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
And then the progression from there to get to Building 5.
All right. We met 22 years ago, 21 years ago
21
on a
years
movie
ago.
In Los Angeles. We were both in the movie business. We met on a movie called America's Sweethearts. We ended up very quickly dating and decided, this is kind of getting serious. We really like each other, and let's get out of the movie business together and move down to San Diego and open a modern furniture store. And so we opened a modern furniture store, not knowing a thing really about furniture except that I had it in my house and she had it in her house.
Yeah, I'm curious.
He did that very quickly.
Yeah,
that was a very quick story.
But why modern furniture?
So we had great friends in San Diego, and we would go down there on the weekends, and on Sunday nights we would have to go back.
Well, between movies, we would have those breaks of 4 weeks, 6 weeks a month, and we spent all of our time in San Diego. And so, yes, it was the driving back on
Sunday
Sundays
nights,
that we just went,
like,
this is where we want to be.
After a year of doing it, we were like, what are we doing? It's like, we love San Diego. It's great. Let's make the move. And movie business isn't really in San Diego, so we had to kind of create our own job, if you will. So we ended up
we went to Lake Tahoe with 15 friends for the New Year's.
And champagne happened.
And we were discussing
and then you open up
changes.
And then you open up. I mean, that's what I do, I just have some champagne and mimosas and open up a furniture store.
We had a mutual friend.
Yeah, 3 p.m. on New Year's Day.
We said, you know what, let's do it. We're like, what are we going to do? And we said, we don't know, but we're from entrepreneurial families.
Yeah.
We knew we wanted to own our own business. We knew we wanted something creative, and we really had no idea. So, we drove back. We talked about it the whole way. We quit our jobs the next week.
How the modern furniture thing happened is there was one of the guys there who was a boyfriend of Misti's friend that was there at the time. We started saying, he's like, well, what are y'all thinking about doing? He had just moved to San Diego from Dallas with her. And he's like, we said, we're thinking about driving around the country, maybe doing some antiques and then bring it back and have a little shop in San Diego. And he's like, have you ever thought about modern furniture? And we're like, not really. I don't know.
What is modern furniture?
It's more sleek lines, mostly European things, very clean lines. And it's different. It's awesome. We've fallen in love with it, learned a whole lot. We brought a lot of lines from Italy and Germany and Netherlands and all over to San Diego, but we basically...
It took us a year. We lived in a house.
Yeah, we lived in a house.
We flew it, we didn't
tried
fly
to raise
in.
money. And then literally we'd have these foreign reps come to the house and they think it was a store. They'd get there and it's like, this is not a store. And we're like, well, we're not open yet, but we'd love to rep your line here in America. So it was probably a pretty funny process, but we ended up, he talked us into it. He's like, let's us three do it. So the three of us ended up opening Mixture in San Diego. And
we had it for
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
Yes, we learned a lot. It was a furniture store, art gallery. We represented all local San Diego artists, design firm, gift shop. It was an old 1940s building. brick warehouse that started off with like 2,500 and then 5,000. And then I think we ended just under 9,000 square feet.
9,500 square feet.
That's not a small little space.
No,
that's a big store.
It grew, and our landlord there was like the most amazing guy.
Super cool building.
There was, we started out at 2,500 downstairs and then 1,000 square foot loft upstairs. And then he had 6,000 behind us. That was kind of with all of his stuff in it. Mm-hmm. And he would show it to Harley Davidson of San Diego. He showed it to hair salons. He showed it. And I'd say, I'd get excited because I'm like, a neighbor, like to bring traffic. And I said, how's it going? Showing it to people. And he's like, I'm waiting for y'all to expand. And so I'm like, I don't know. And literally, I think we were 3 years in when we started negotiating with him. So he kind of waited for us. And again,
well, I'll throw this in real quick. When we went to expand, right, Brumby loved to cook. We were trying to figure out not just bringing in furniture. So we decided to bring in Italian cabinetry, right? Kitchen cabinetry. So it enabled us to head to Italy and do a little bit of research, but also meant
have
we
a
got
live
to put,
working kitchen in the furniture store so that we could
you could cook naturally.
So
and show people how their kitchen's going to be.
There it is. Show them how the kitchen would work. Yes. Of course.
Lots of events, lots of cooking as well.
So, and we loved it. Like we would entertain people there. We had Thanksgivings there, but also on Saturdays and Sundays, I would cook and people would eat down the street. They're like, I came in here because I smelled what's going on? Like, is this what are you doing? I'm like, well, we're a modern furniture store and we cook, and it would keep people there longer, and it was something to talk about. And then it was a kind of a lifestyle store. So it was great. And it helped people kind of see that furniture in their house. And what they say when you're selling a house, you bake the cookies in the oven, you put the green apples on the counter, you make it look like and smell like home. So that's kind of what we did with the furniture store.
Yeah. Or just jealous of the fact that they couldn't cook that well.
He just loved to cook, and it worked out really well.
There was a hidden agenda.
Obviously.
To actually have the kitchen. We should sell cabinetry. Yeah.
And really nice appliances.
Yeah, it was good.
So then you should have started your own cooking show or something.
That would have been
brought
good.
in the camera tree and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I
like a Red Stick Spice style setup with all the cameras and everything.
Right?
100%. I when the cameras go on, I'm like Cindy Brady in that episode of the Brady Bunch when she knew all the answers, but when the camera light went on, you're like this. You don't know anything. This is a lot easier. I don't pay attention to those cameras, but it's much easier to, So yeah, the cooking show idea, I've always loved the idea, but I think, nobody wants to see people go like this.
There's still plenty of time. You start with small cameras, right? And you start with them small.
We have the
little
back room.
iPhone. Just have Misty walking around you a little bit.
We have the back room set up at Building 5 for a camera for cooking classes and things like that.
Yeah.
But
camera's been installed since before we opened.
Oh yeah.
Just ready for us.
You knew it was going to be something you were going to do.
Well, cooking classes as well, not necessarily just a show, but classes. But we just haven't. We've been fortunate. We've stayed busy that we haven't been able to fully
do everything that we
grow into all those fun opportunities that we're looking forward to.
But you still got them, and they're still on the docket, waiting.
You know what?
To come to fruition.
There's nothing that is out of the question.
No.
Right?
Yes, we've learned that.
I love it. So y'all did it for 13 years?
Yeah, 13 years. And then the kids started coming along, we literally started to try the move about 4 years before we actually did it. It was like, we should do this. And it's like, yeah, well, let's get closer to family. And she's being from South Texas. I'm from South Louisiana. We kind of did trips and talked about, I have a little bit more family, I think, here close to Baton Rouge and New Iberia, Lafayette.
We knew we wanted to raise our kids here. Yeah, the day we met in Los Angeles, right, there was you're from the South, you're from Texas, I'm from Louisiana. Oh, would you ever move back? Oh, I'm definitely going to raise my family there, right?
Yeah,
so that was on from day one that we knew that was happening. So we just had to wait. But it did take us almost 5 years to actually leave San Diego because it's a beautiful place.
It's tough to leave. I imagine y'all probably had somewhere along the coast or something like that.
Yeah, our store was in Little Italy, and we lived right up the hill from it. So
near Balboa Park.
Yeah, I walked to work, and there's restaurants and bars within walking distance, 100 of them. In any direction. It was a great place to live. Hard to leave, but once we knew we wanted to go. But yeah, it took us about 4 years to where we're like, okay.
We also found we were flying here, 5-6 times a year so that our kids would know their grandparents and their cousins and our big families. And so finally we just said, let's make the move before our son starts kindergarten, flip the model. And if we live and raise them there, then
we can actually
explore
go on
the world,
vacations that aren't our hometowns. You know what I mean? So
Right.
That's
raise them around. Yeah.
So did y'all sell the furniture store? What happened with that? Is it
So
still
we
in
ended up-
existence? You still
It
own
is
you
not-
still have a partial ownership of the furniture store with a
No,
live kitchen?
It's actually it
There's a
worked out
restaurant.
like perfect. We put the word out to interior designers and architects and saying, hey, we're for sale. If you want to come in and have your design studio here, it's perfect. And within, I don't know how many months it was, we started putting it out a little bit more to real estate agents, to whatever. Well, a friend of ours, Nate, he was a real estate agent there, walked in with Brian Malarkey, who is a celebrity chef. He's on the Food Network a lot. Richard Blaze had just opened Juniper and Ivy next to us, which is, Richard Blaze is also on the Food Network. So Brian Malarkey and Nate, he said he's interested in actually buying the store. How many years do you have left on the lease? So we ended up negotiating a deal where he bought us out of our lease and then said, I don't care how long it takes you to close, so however long. So we closed about 10 months.
It kept extending.
It kept extending. He didn't mind.
But
it was great.
And it was great. I thought closing the store was going to be this very sad
it was
moment that would be kind of dreadful. And we had parties, and it was such a celebration. We had people that had been met at our store and had gotten married and had kids.
And they would come to
that's
the
pretty
parties.
cool.
It was
and like
so
artists
cool.
that had launched huge careers, and a lot of the employees, our team members that worked with us, had their own design businesses. So it ended up being like an amazing last year, kind of celebrating all of those
awesome.
things. It was a very different than what I thought it was going to be, but it ended up being this really beautiful closure to the business.
Very positive and good. So,
Well, it's a
and
different-
the restaurant there is Urban
Beautiful.
Wood, and it's a beautiful restaurant. So if you're ever in San Diego, go to Urban Wood. It's beautiful, and that was our old furniture store.
Well, and it's also a joyous occasion when you're closing the door of a business to go somewhere else for a positive side.
Right.
So if you were closing it because the store wasn't
wasn't
making
working.
it, it'd be a whole
It'd be a
different
whole
outlook.
different story.
Of
If you said
course.
we've got to close our
So-
doors because we're not selling furniture,
Yeah.
nobody's buying anything.
Yeah.
Brumby's cooking's not going so well. Like we got to do something different here.
Exactly.
Well, glad to know that wasn't the case
Yeah,
with our
no,
choice.
It was good.
of
It was
the new
all
business.
good. And all of that led us to here and moving here and starting this business and having that business and not knowing it very well and learning all of the stuff. It helps you for the next phase. Like
We
it's
do these 10-year complete career changes.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not sure why we do them. But
movie business 10 years, furniture
Interior
store
design and art.
13 years, and now we're in our third year
of being open.
here. Not to say we're done.
I was about to say, are you saying we got 7 years left to enjoy building 5 and then you're
No.
out of here?
No, right now, we're having such fun. It's not all fun. It gets a little crazy, but it's for the most part, it's wonderful. Like the people of Baton Rouge have been great to us. The business, knock on wood, has been very good, and the location is amazing. I think it's probably one of the best locations around in Baton Rouge. That whole area, changing for the better, and just rustic and funky and cool. So we have no plans right now to do another 10-year shift. Yeah.
So
It's very different doing it with young kids too.
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of find yourself stuck or
Yeah,
solidified in a
yes.
position like, no, I need to make sure that I'm doing this. I can't bounce around.
Yeah. Look at
all
your
the time.
13-year-old and say, hey, we're moving. And you'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
No,
doesn't-
we're here. We're good. And there's still so much we want to do. Like I said, there's so many parts of the business that were always the initial, plans that we haven't even been able to kind of scratch the surface on yet. So we're excited.
And that's great. So then what made y'all want to get, I guess you're coming from the furniture store business, and I guess it is immediate turns from movie to furniture. And I guess you were just like, hey, I want to get behind this cooking thing and make it a reality
Yeah.
at that point.
Look, food has always been super important in my family. I went to culinary school here in Baton Rouge 27 years ago now. So food has always been my thing. My mom said a long time ago, you need to have some initials behind your name. If you're not going to go to college, and I went to college, it wasn't great. I didn't like it. So my mom said, do something. So I went to culinary school. I got my degree there, And so I had something to fall back on. And then that's when I shout out to the movie stuff, and it had the name. So I always had in my head to like, I love restaurants. I love the energy. I love food. I love
we love to
entertaining people.
hosting.
We love entertaining people. So it just kind of naturally, we started talking about it, and all the great restaurants out in California that we fell in love with, we kind of gelled. That's what Building 5 is. We gelled about 5 concepts that we absolutely loved and we used to go to into what Building 5 is, from the market to the bar to the
details or
private room
pieces
to
of them that we loved.
all of the different aspects.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so what was your push, Misty, to kind of get this thing off the ground? He's got the culinary background.
You see the details of that place. That's her.
I mean, once we knew we were moving back home, we said, okay, what are we going to do? We knew we didn't want to do furniture again. We made the decision to do food. And from that point, we knew what we loved. We knew what we loved, experiencing, enjoying, friends that had restaurants, what we liked about different things, and the idea of being a part of that and creating our own. Like I said, we're both of our families small business owners, entrepreneurs. So the idea of creating, a brand and something else that we love, we're always kind of building things that we're fans of somewhat. So I think when that happened, I mean, literally for Brumby and I, once the idea is there, we kind of just start rolling with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a million miles an hour. So there's no looking back. And then it's just, making a plan. I mean, we started deciding it was a restaurant. In that time, we ended up having our daughter in San Diego. We were kind of already, wheels were in motion to move here and to do this. And then once we actually moved, I mean, our biggest, the biggest issue for us was finding a location. Things in Baton Rouge just didn't stay open. And if they did, having not been from here, people were already in the pipeline
really
for
good
those
locations. We figured out very quickly they do not last very long at all. And a lot of times people
were
in the
taken before you
know
knew.
would know the restaurant was going to be closing, and there was another person ready to sign that lease and do another restaurant. Or, I mean, every time we look at something, it was like, oh man, look at that location. It was something else already.
We would just drive around.
Not to mention raising money was not like,
Yeah.
The easiest thing to do.
Move to a new town and say you're opening a restaurant, and people look at you like, oh, that's the people opening a restaurant. Go that way. Go the other way. Yeah. So that wasn't easy, but it took all of it took a little time. I think from the time we moved, we've been here almost 8 years, and we're 3 years old, and the construction and everything took about a year. So 4 years of.
It was a big project. We had to rezone the property. There were a lot of, I mean, he found that location, right? We kept looking for buildings all over Baton Rouge. We weren't tied to any one area. Even the concept changed a little bit depending on different locations that were available. And he found that spot, and he wouldn't even tell me about it.
I didn't tell her it was longer than that. I didn't tell her because I didn't want her super excited, and then it falls through.
Right.
So I went and talked to the landlord and again, and finally he agreed to lease it to us. I had told her when I started feeling good about the conversation with him, and then, showed it to her, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Like, how does this exist? How is this available in Baton Rouge? And I'm not from here, right? So I'm still learning. I was still learning areas. And I mean, I think I'd only been to Baton Rouge twice before we decided to move here. And when we kind of narrowed down where we were moving.
Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you had some familiarity with it.
Yes.
At least going to
Yes.
someplace twice, you kind of start to recognize parts of town, and you recognize, oh, this big
Right.
landmark,
Yeah.
this big building. But from an economic standpoint, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just pure crazy.
I mean,
Yeah.
we said we're moving home somewhere between Texas and then North Carolina. That was actually our spot because my sister was in Manhattan at the time.
Okay.
And we were trying to get close
We
to
were trying to
family.
look
And
at-
we just
and then
kept narrowing
we
down.
narrowed down to, like, if you put a point on the state line and you did like a circumference of, like, around a certain radius, that's where we wanted to be. So we looked at Spring, Texas. We looked at Tyler, Texas. We looked at New Orleans, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and then kind of, came to the realization that Baton Rouge would be the best for us.
We wanted a great place to raise our kids.
Yeah.
We wanted a great place to raise it. We had lived in like downtown San Diego for a long time. We had lived in LA. We had lived in other places in our lives, and it was time to make our kids a priority as well. So how do we pick this really great spot? And it was a strong economy, and that was important to us. We had gone through a recession in San Diego.
Yeah.
Right. So those things were a factor, and Baton Rouge had so much to offer. And then we were really intrigued by the culinary scene, because everyone kept telling us it was kind of this, stepsister to New Orleans and Lafayette. And then when we came here and we started meeting people and checking out what was going on, there were like different cool things happening, chefs here, restaurants opening, kind of this independent movement that was intriguing to us. We were excited to be a part of something like that, for sure.
I've never heard of Baton Rouge being referred to as the stepsister of New Orleans and Lafayette from the culinary space. That's interesting.
Well, I hope we heard this a lot when we were getting ready
Right
to
when we
move
got here, it was kind of
everyone said a restaurant, you go to New Orleans or you go to Lafayette, and they kept saying this. And then it wasn't what we were experiencing, and so it was a very different.
I think.
I guess it was back in 2014.
2015.
2015. Okay, so. All right, I could see some justification.
Those were not my words.
Right. I mean, I could see that making a little bit of sense back at that point in time.
Yeah, it was very different. I mean, that's what we said when we got here. That was not what we were experiencing at all. There were so many smaller, independent. White Star Market was opening. Different chefs and investors or different people that we were meeting with.
A lot of people were moving back and opening restaurants. I mean, you had BRQ, you got these guys, and that was kind of like, man, this is kind of exciting. This is cool. People are moving back here. They're opening cool little places. Back when I was going to culinary school, I think I went in 2003. It was at the Lafayette Hotel downtown, and that was like the chain restaurant time in Baton Rouge. I mean, every chain was coming to Baton Rouge, and I think it got real, for lack of better words, chainy. And I mean, it was, your Bucas and your Olive Gardens and your Outbacks and your all of that. And so I think around, I don't know when it was, I wasn't here, 2010, it started to move not away from that, but not to get such the stigma of the chain restaurant.
Right.
And I think it's headed that way. And there's these larger groups that are opening great places too.
I think
that are turning it into a great culinary scene. I think
they're looking for new concepts. So you still have these big, large groups, these big, large companies, but they're trying to find different concepts that they can open up to differentiate and have multiple locations in the same city that are under one parent company, but it's all different little concepts that kind of hit everybody where they're at.
Which is exciting.
It's very exciting.
Great.
It's interesting.
So it's
as
really
a business owner, as a customer, as just a resident of the city, right? I mean, when we got here, our top question to everyone was, okay, you have someone come in town, where do you take them, right? And it was very telling, kind of where everyone would say, like, your best friend comes in town from out of state, where do you take them?
I love asking people that, because it's...
And in 2015, there was a lot of hesitation. There's not anymore.
No, that's true. Because there was only one or two. I mean, you had the people who ate out a lot knew what I call them as the hole in the wall restaurants, the one-off mom and pop shops that have the aesthetics. They've been around and they haven't had to change anything.
Right.
So it's just been what the restaurant is, and you go there knowing you're gonna get a real homey vibe or a real mom and pop vibe, but the food is gonna be off the charts.
Right.
Yeah.
But and that same question now, we still ask it. It's very different answer from 2015 to now. Which is exciting. But now people are like,
a lot easier
now they go to 5 or 6 or 7.
It used to be they'd name 1 or 2, and then they'd be like, gosh,
they couldn't come up with 3.
And now if you ask people that, they have quicker answers and they have more answers. And so that's one of the things we feel like that's a good thing. Baton Rouge is going in the right direction culinarily, which is good.
But it's an easy tell whenever you start having people be able to rattle off multiple businesses at once. Yeah. It means that the city is developing and growing and expanding beyond what it was, and people are, I guess, taking matters in their own hands, making stuff happen.
Yeah.
We had B Arcade on 2 weeks ago, an arcade bar.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
That concept was something that people would look at you and say, well, you're just crazy to go and do that.
Right. I think they did that to Todd too, when they're like, "You're going to do chicken?"
Everybody told us that. Just one.
3 things.
But crazy is good.
Your items.
Yeah. How'd that work out for you? Pretty good.
I'd say it worked out all right.
Yeah, I think he's at 700.
You need
locations.
crazy though, right?
Yeah.
You need crazy. You need.
Absolutely.
We talk about. I mean, all these things we've done. Had we not done them before, we would have entered into it very differently. But kind of, we kind of like those new business blinders. You start something. it's a beautiful thing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
When you open a restaurant, it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing what you don't know, because in hindsight, you look at this saying, how would I ever achieve it? Instead of you just jump in, you roll your sleeves up, you tackle it each day.
Because as you get older, you get more scared. You get a little bit of what could happen. Like, what if? And when you're younger, you're like, well, you don't know any better. So you're like, let's just go for it and see what happens. And then,
Well, us too, though. I mean, when we opened it was just like,
Yeah, we weren't that young when we.
No, but you get behind something,
Yeah.
right? It's a passion.
Yeah.
It's a project, and failure is not an option. So
Right.
it's now just how do we stay flexible? I mean, I promise you, 2 weeks before we opened, we were having these conversations, like just praying people would enjoy eating a dinner board. We
Yeah,
weren't sure people would get the board.
I almost ixnayed that idea. Like 2 weeks before we opened, I looked at Misty, and we had ordered boards. We had them coming in, and I'm like, Misty, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, what are we doing? I'm like, first of all, the stuff's going to get cold going out to the table. The juices are going to flow. I'm like, and I'm in the middle of the night. I'm like, what are we
They're
doing?
heavy.
We're gonna
How are we
panic
gonna get them
attack
to the
I'm like,
table?
we're putting this on plates. That's it. The dinner boy, maybe platters. I'm like, something that'll hold the. And all of a sudden, I talked to one of my buddies in California who's a restaurateur, and I called him the next day after my middle of the night freak out. And this is after we'd already borrowed $1 million. So the panic was real. And so I called him and I said, Felipe, I think the board idea is great. I don't think I'm going to do this. I said, I think maybe platters or just do plates and let people order. And he goes, look, you have a good idea here. Stick to it. Trust me. I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm like, well, okay. So we went back and we said, okay, we'll do the boards. And then we figured out some ways to not make it, the juices flow down or whatever. And it literally, it kept me up a lot of nights. But then once it started happening and people were like, dude, this is great. A little Italy board and a steak and potato board and a harvest board, it, worked out.
Because y'all kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe y'all kind of kicked off the board concept here in Baton Rouge for the most part. Or is there somebody else doing something similar?
We had never seen it,
No,
to
we
be
had never
honest.
seen
It's
it
how
here.
we eat at home, right? When he makes anything, not just charcuterie, cheese, anything he would make, he'd pull out one of our big, cutting boards or wooden boards and would serve all different kinds of food on it. So it's something that we loved.
Yeah.
And when we looked at this idea, it was, the experience is a big thing for us, right? If we're going to open a restaurant, you have to have amazing food, of course. You have to have amazing service, drinks, of course. But how do you create this environment that takes people out of their world, right?
We wanted
out of their moment.
We wanted this two-top talking to the two-top next to them about what do you have there? And you create that conversation and you meet a new person and it's all surrounded about food. Like you're, meeting people through food. So that's kind of the whole concept
It's
behind the
super
boards.
communal,
And also,
right?
like she said, when people come to the house or for the, I don't know how many years I've been cooking and we love to entertain, we have people at the house. I like to just start throwing things out. I would rather do that than have a sit-down dinner party like that. I need to move anyway. I'm not a good sitter downer. I need to so it's a great way for me to go back to the oven or go back to the grill and throw something out and come back and it's more of a sharing experience. It's more of, I would rather take, 3 bites of 17 different things than have, 4 things on my plate and have the same amount of bites. I want to try a little bit of that, a little bit of that. So the board idea was each board has 8 to 10 different things on it, and that's on purpose. If you get a board for one and I get a board for one, we have 20 things in front of us. And you can be like, dude, try that with this sauce and try that with this. No, put that with this. Check this. And it's 2 different boards and now it's coming together. So it's like, that's where the idea came from, really.
Yeah, and it's that way is fascinating because I'll go there with my wife and we'll each get a board for one.
Yeah.
And then it's like halfway through the dinner, we just swap the boards.
Right.
Like,
Right.
let's
What are you gonna
swip
do with
now.
this?
Right.
Let's just try something different. And it's a phenomenal experience to go there, and the space that y'all have is so cool, but also a little risky for Louisiana weather.
Yeah. We
It
lose
is.
36% when it rains, but I'll be honest with you.
On the
we have
beautiful
136 seats. And if it's raining, we lose 36. So we have a 100-seat restaurant inside. But the thing about it is like Louisiana, they sit outside, man. They, even if it's, kind of hot, but you blow a fan on them, they're happy with outside.
Yeah.
If it's a little misty, they'll be like, I'll sit outside until it starts pouring. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
And then we'll scoot right underneath the awning
Yes.
to where like the rain's falling here and we're still
Every
eating.
time it rains,
Yeah.
we look at, do we need to cover this? But then every day it's a beautiful day. We're like, it's not the same once it's covered. So it's certainly, I mean, we never thought we would be on a weather app as much as we are. Daily, hourly, by the minute sometimes.
I'm like Doppler. You can call me. I'm on that thing like, it's crazy.
But on those beautiful nights, the weather's nice, the doors are open. I mean, it's just, I know our team can't wait, right? If it's a day where the doors can be open, I mean, people walk in, our team
They
walks in
opened them
smiling,
today
can we
when
open?
we were
Can we
leaving,
open?
and it was still 81 degrees and like 9,000% humidity. They're like, can we open them? I'm like, gosh,
we love it.
It's kind of hot, but I'm like, go ahead, and we did. But it's just that feeling when those doors start opening. You're like, okay, here we go. This is, it's
feels
awesome.
good.
And we open them. I think we open them probably 90 days a year, maybe 100. And I thought we would open them maybe 20 if we were lucky. And so we open them a lot more than you would think here. So
Yeah, and that
great.
is part of the incredible part is the fact of you do have so many openable days.
Yes.
Where you can sit there and open them up and people can come in. I mean, I've been to the restaurant one day and the doors were closed and they had the table and chair that wasn't there. And then I came back, the doors were open. There was a two-top there, and I was like, that table was not there last week. Obviously, they bring it in when they open the doors.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, it's
staying flexible again,
the
right?
good thing
It's a
is
good reminder.
It's a sexy little place that if the doors can't be open, it's still a nice atmosphere inside. If it's storming outside, there's no better place than sitting next to those doors with that rain hitting the side of it. And it's still great. So
it cools down a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
So whenever y'all were going to start designing the place, I mean, you walk in there and it's kind of like your boards. There's a mixture of everything within the restaurant.
Right.
Walk us through the design of getting that concept to where it is.
Do you want to take that?
Well, I mean, the building that he found, right? That's the market when you walk into. That first part was the market. We also started fast casual when we first opened the business.
For lunch, we were fast casual.
Yeah.
Dinner, full service.
But it was a storage shed. I mean, there was no plumbing, there was no electricity.
No, the electricity was two plugs coming together and a couple of dangling lights.
And I think when we fell in love with it, it was that space. And then very quickly, those trees out on the patio, we were like, they're gorgeous. How can we not let people sit underneath these trees? So then it was, we have to have outdoor seating. And then when we started looking at kind of the space, some of the things we wanted to do with the kitchen, and we would run into different issues that we would just flip it. And then it was the private room. Like, well, you've got to have this awesome room to have a private room. And then the outdoor space, we're like, it shouldn't just be picnic benches. This is really cool. Let's do a bar. Well, if we're going to do a bar, we've got to have these doors, right? So it kept growing, but it was truly the space.
Yeah, we knew we wanted it to fit with the area too. I mean, all those buildings and all that, that whole area is rustic and funky. So we wanted to keep that building and the atmosphere we put together to kind of fit the property. We wanted people to come there and go, has this been here 25 years or has it been here 2 months or has it, and kind of confuse them a little bit. That's why we left the outside like it is. I want people to walk up with their friend and go, wait, where are you taking me? And then you walk in the door and you're surprised by it. You have an element of like, oh wow, okay, this is here. And then that person is excited to take somebody and go, dude, come with me. And you're like, where am I taking? It's like, and it
What's messing with expectations,
yes.
Right? And I think that's a little bit
we like to do that.
I mean, it's always nice when we're surprised by any type of a business. And so the same thing, like when we were thinking of the space, it's like, how do you have a spot where people want to come? How do you mess with that expectation when they're walking up on the gravel path and
you're parking under an overpass and you're just
dead
like,
end road.
Where am I?
Yeah, it's dark.
A rusted old fire truck in the front, like it's
what is this?
very
place,
questionable
right?
things roll through your head. And next thing you're looking for some tumbleweeds to come in front of the front of the shop.
You can create your own lunch or you can create your own dinner. If you're on a date with your wife, you can sit in the private room and it's a little more quiet and sexy. And if you're meeting a buddy or two couples, you can sit in the bar that's more like a Brooklyn atmosphere that's kind of funky and cool. And the front market is like just kind of LA style where there's a freezer case and a cool weird atmosphere,
Like
but it's still cool to have a date night in there. Or you kind of, in the patio, of course, is its own personality.
little
So you
Austin
kind of
/
create
Bacchanal
your
vibe.
experience within Building 5 and how you're feeling and what your
But
night
we
is
said that's
or
kind
day
of
is.
like our home, right? So our big thing was if we're going to open a restaurant, it's got to feel like how we would want to entertain people in our house, right? You walk in, the kitchen's always where people want to hang out, but you have these different parts of the room of your home. I mean, you know, whether you're outside, and each part of your home has that different vibe, right? Certain people come over, you sit in a different room. And so that was really big for us, that they felt independent of one another to create those different experiences, but walking through it, you know, it was clearly one spot. But I mean, it was painstakingly designed on some of the pieces of, you know, if there was any old wood behind something we weren't going to use, we wanted to pull the old wood off and use it somewhere else. If there had to be new, you know, products or materials anywhere, how do we beat it up? How do we stain it? How do we leave it outside for the next 6 months? How do we make sure it feels like it's home here so that it didn't feel out of place? And it's one of our favorite compliments when people come in and say, how long has this place been here? And they have no idea that from those windows over, all of that was grass when we started there. Like
Where
that
the
was all
windows
built
are
anew.
at.
So the market is the only room that existed.
That front,
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like,
that front 900
Okay.
square foot space that
Right.
you walk in is the original building.
But
And
the
then
windows to the
everything
bar?
else, the bar is new construction. The patio is new construction. The private room,
And all
of
the
course, the
kitchen.
high five upstairs and the kitchen is all new construction. So we added all of that.
but it doesn't feel like new construction. And I think that's what,
Yeah,
what you were getting at. It doesn't
exactly.
feel like this place was, a truck was dumped off with fresh wood and timber, and then you
Yeah.
built this whole thing. And it's got this
I mean,
new
if you look
vibe
at
to
some
it.
of the metal inside, it actually, we beat it up a little bit and we stained it a little bit. So it looks like
If we couldn't find it old,
rainwater had hit it and it's now stained. And so it's like there's little things. And she's
and
like,
we found objects, I mean, all over on the
Detail.
property, you know, from our landlord and from antique stores and estate sales. And for us, it was a part of kind of the authentic feel of everything needed to have a story, right? Needed to have soul, needed to have character. I mean, there's a reason why all of our silverware is bought from estate sales and vintage shops. And, you know, we go to Round Top and it's all, I mean, they have initials, right? Like some of these things. And
Some
it's
of
the
these,
idea
yeah.
that the silverware, I mean, how many memories were created in meals and stories and laughter with different family members, and
And
how
it's
cool
actually-
that that's passed along.
it's less expensive than actually going to buy brand new silverware.
Oh, I'm sure.
So some people like are taking
Well,
our silverware because
depends
they
on who
think
we're
it's,
getting
I'm
it
like,
from.
dude, it's really cheap. Like you don't have to take my silverware. It's, you know.
Go
No,
to
it's-
estate
Yeah.
sale. I can tell you, just like the
Yes.
weather, I can tell you where all the estate
Exactly.
sales
Estate
are
sale, yes.
this weekend because I'm
Have
going to
estate
be
sales
there.
in Doppler. Just call me.
We had bought out pretty much all of the surrounding area. But I mean, we've had really cool stories. There was a girl that sat there and she, you know, was freaking out and grabbed the server and brought us over, and she had a ring that she had made from an artist from an old spoon. And she had the fork that matched the spoon
The
when she
exact
sat down.
pattern was on her ring of the one that was at her table.
And we've had people say, this was my mother's pattern. This was my grandmother's.
I mean, the cool thing is you look at like, I mean, we're probably going too far on silverware, but the cool,
But it's details.
the cool
It's
thing
the
about
details
it,
it matters.
The cool thing about it is like think of how many Thanksgiving dinners all of that silverware had at homes with families and friends and you know all of that, and now it's you know living on because you know we found it at an estate sale and it's a set of 5 now instead of the 12 or whatever, you know that silverware was
was-
sitting
yeah.
at like parties for the past 50 years. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it gives that, again, that vibe of home feel, and that it's part of you.
It's part
when
of the
you're eating dinner
experience,
that.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we jumped off of it a little bit for the boards, but it was this idea because, you know, we weren't sure, would people share, would they know what to do with the boards? And it jumped back to how do we create this very communal experience, right? A lot of people go out to dinner now, and whether it's TVs or cell phones or whatever's going on, there's a lot of distraction. A lot of people, you know, you'll see 4, 6, 7 people sitting at a table and they're not even interacting with one another. Well, guess what? If I bring that dinner board, right, the steak and potato
They
board to your
all
table and you want
start
steak, you
talking
better
about
pay
that dinner
attention,
board.
right?
Yeah.
You'll be left out if you're not a part of this. So it's the idea that you're kind of actively asking people, what is that, trying different things. And all of a sudden now you have this entire conversation around what you're all eating, right? So now it's this experience that you wouldn't normally have. You know, he always said we were eliminating order envy. What happens
Yes,
when you go
I
to those
have order
restaurants where
envy
you sit down for 2
terribly.
hours, you commit to this entree, right?
Right.
And the entree comes to your table, to your place setting, and all you want is a bite of what the person across from you has. And it's not socially acceptable to reach across and take a bite of that.
It depends on who you're with.
Depends on who you're with.
Stick
Yeah.
the fork over there and start cutting
I do have
somebody's
an extendable
food.
fork that I keep in my truck. It's weird. My son's like, "Why do you have an extendable fork?" I'm like, "Son, you never know.
He
When
does.
Somebody's gonna have
That's right.
something across the table that I'm gonna need to have a bite of."
You can tell them where you got that fork from.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would
my
know them.
gosh. No, most people wouldn't.
Sally Struthers.
Sally Struthers was at a dinner party one time.
Do you know who that is?
I
Sally?
have no idea who that is.
Okay, yeah. See,
Do you know who that is? Okay.
yeah, there you go.
She was an actress, comedian.
What was the show?
Which one?
Archie.
All in the Family.
All in the Family.
What's-
So she was a
what was she
daughter
saying?
on All in the Family, and I get invited to this dinner party, and there's like 10 of us there, and Sally Struthers is there, and I'm like, "You are kidding me! I'm sitting here with Sally Struthers. How cool is this?" So we're sitting there, and I'm across from her, and we're laughing and cutting up, and she is awesome. And all of a sudden, I look down, and she is extended a fork, and she's stealing food off of my plate. I'm like, "What is that?" And I just started cracking up laughing. And at the end of the dinner party, she goes, "You got to take that." So I'm like, "Okay." So I've had a extendable fork from Sally Struthers in my truck for 20 something years, and it's good.
How often do you use it?
Probably too often.
We may or may not be bringing extendable forks into Building
Yeah,
5 so that people can experience that from
Look, if it's at
You
a
know, the
yard
tables.
sale,
Yes.
pick it up.
Oh yes.
those big boards. Sometimes you can't reach to the other
Yeah.
side.
Well, and it's the shareable element, like you were saying, it's not common practice for someone to reach over and grab some food. But at the last restaurant, I was with a group of guys, and we were sitting there eating, and they just kept saying, "Oh, hang on, you got to try this cut. You got to try this." I'm like, "Well, do you want to try this?" And so we started passing it around.
Right.
And I think the idea of shareable sides and shareable appetizers has kind of opened up people's plates.
Of course.
Where they're not just bound to eating with an arm around it, making sure that no one's going to steal what they're
Right.
eating. It's more of, oh yeah, let's exchange some food. Let's get some.
Yes.
Let's start sharing what we've got. But I'm sure initially, you probably had to have some weird looks when people sat down and were
We
like,
did.
"What in the world is a board?"
Yeah, and that's
why the heck are you bringing out my food? That
Where's
you
my
say,
plate?
"Please
Yeah,
share."
and that's
you
why
know,
the
like, what
boards-
is this?
Where's
that's
my
why the
plate?
boards do come in 1, 2, and 4. So they serve one person, 2 people, or 4 people, and that way, if somebody is that person that is not a sharer, they can get a board for one, and they can put their arms around it, and they can block it off. But the idea is that we can get the board for one, and you get a board for one, and we share it up. But yeah, we did do the board for one just for that very reason. I mean, we have boards for 4, but I try to get people all the time. I'm like, please get 2 different boards for 2,
Right.
not just a board for 4, and that way you have more things to try. But
Well, because then you're stuck settling. And then if you have people that said, "Let's get one board of 4, and that's all we're going to eat,"
Yeah.
then everybody's like, "Well, I like this board, I like this board, I
Right.
like this board," and it's
Yes.
okay, great. All 4 of you get one, and then you all can all pass it around.
Yes.
And you get that element of, well, now I don't have to sit there and, like you said, the table comes out, orders, and they start looking around.
Exactly.
Oh, well, their board
Yeah.
looks
The
really
board
good. We should have gotten
passes,
their
yeah.
board.
Well, and
No,
we
I-
love it when customers tell us about different combinations of what they like. We had someone who
Yeah.
combines 2 of our soups. It still blows my mind,
It
and she
blows
swears
my
it's
mind.
She combines the roasted tomato basil with the Tom Khagai soup, and
swears by it.
I still need to try it, but I can't
Okay.
quite bring myself
I
to.
don't know that I want to, but I trust her, because when she said that her husband and they get
get
a
it every
bowl and a
time.
bowl, and they do it every time, and they are regulars and they're awesome. But I'm like, wow. I like how did you even think of that? Like, did you
Did
just
you
spill
spill?
some, and then you're like,
That's
oh
my
God,
guess.
that's
That's
good.
my guess.
Yeah.
She spilled
Yeah.
some. She was taking some from his soup, bringing it to hers, and she spilled she bumped her elbow and it fell into the
Yeah.
soup bowl.
Like, we're not wasting that. Let's try it.
So we've actually got some of y'all's products in front of us here. So kind of walk us through what we've got within these different containers, because it's all home blended, right?
Yes,
So
all
what
in-house.
what do we have here?
I'll let him talk about the lemonades. It's been a passion project.
Yeah. So
Since
the
before we
lemonades, before it's in our business plan. I love lemonade. It's like my thing, vodka and lemonade. But so a while back we started 3 ingredient lemonades, blueberry, ginger, rosemary, pear, basil, jalapeno, and like whatever's in season, and we play with it. And the lemonades just started selling really, really well. And so we bottle them, we sell them there in 16 ounce or 32. If somebody's having a party, they can say, hey, can I get a gallon? We can sell them a gallon. And some people drink it right out of the bottle and they're happy. Some people bring it home and mix it with spirits. We are, hopefully our next deal is to try to get these into grocery stores. We're formulating right now to make it a longer shelf life, because these are fresh made ingredients that only last 10 days, because It's real strawberries. It's real jalapenos. It's real.
Right.
So it's we're working with formulation right now and a bottler and finding a bottler to get them hopefully in the grocery stores.
Yeah, and y'all have got the spirit mix. You've got the cocktail mixes, the margarita mix, and you've got there's some other mix in front of me. Some cocktail mix.
Garden basil martini.
Yeah,
That's it, the martini mix. Yes, and you're
Basil
right. They all
martini.
have like use by dates on them
Yes.
because of how fresh ingredients are.
Right.
Because we make those all in-house for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, our cocktail mixes are non-alcoholic.
You mix it at home
And
with
that's
your
just
favorite
been
spirit.
so fun to watch. I mean, we'll make a batch and we look up and they're just gone.
Yeah.
Which has been really exciting. It's fun to
We basically
to see people fall in
took
love with the product.
the drinks that sold the best on the menu and created drinks that people could just bring home and have with them all the time. It's kind of like the market freezers and refrigerators we have up front. The whole idea with the business plan is why in the heck would you sell something to them seated in your restaurant if they like it, have it for them to take home. Chicken tortilla soup, the roasted tomato basil soup, pork stew, whatever they can bring it home with them. And so it kind of worked out.
Well, I'm sure that probably helped y'all significantly during COVID, where
Yes.
people wanted this. They wanted the drinks, whether it was the lemonades or their cocktail mixes, and they couldn't get them in the store.
Yeah, that's
they
how
were coming to you saying, "Can we please?" I mean, people were like, "Can we just please buy like a gallon of this to bring home
Yeah.
with dinner?"
Well, that's when it was created. I mean, we had
Yeah.
not done the cocktail mixes before, and
The
people kept
lemonades we
asking
had,
us.
but not the cocktail
Yeah,
mixes.
they kept
And
saying,
it was
"How do I get your
definitely
cocktail?"
born at that time.
So it's a birth. This is a child of COVID right here.
Yeah,
is what
so
we're seeing.
that's a COVID baby right there. Yeah, it worked out.
Yes, people kept saying, "How do we get your cocktails?" And our license doesn't allow us to make cocktails, out the door. And so we had to figure out. We had an amazing bar manager that was a bit of a scientist, in his spare time, helped creating those drinks. But I mean, our spicy Baja Margarita mix, which is hands down our bestseller.
Yeah.
That was something where we made what was it, like a mango habanero pepper jelly, and it was delicious. And he liked spicy margarita, so then he started using that. Now we infuse our tequila with our house-made mango habanero pepper jelly. That's what makes it spicy.
So when are you starting to sell that tequila?
We'll deliver you some tequila with those. Yeah.
Well, so now can y'all deliver alcohol with everything, or people still have to buy spirits somewhere else and buy the mixes to go with
We can
it?
deliver
No,
alcohol.
we can
Okay.
deliver. Yeah.
Good. Was that another
Yes.
COVID baby?
Yeah. Actually, the
I
second
will say
day,
that the state did that quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, they shut down dining.
we
opened
called
up
them and
delivery.
said, "How can we deliver alcohol?" And they said, "What? Bring $100 and fill out this paperwork." And we were delivering.
Well, I mean, and that sounds very shady, but it was the
No, it
process they had
was-
put in place, and they just
Yes.
made sure that
They
it was a
made
very
sure-
quick
yeah,
process.
it was a very
so I
quick
think by the end
process.
of the week, we were able to deliver alcohol,
Yeah.
which was great. We still have a sweet lady that orders, 2 liters of vodka a week with a cookie,
a
for
cookie.
delivery, or a month, or whatever she orders it is, because you have to have food with alcohol delivery.
Oh, well, she gets. See, I didn't even know y'all made cookies.
We have some amazing cookies.
Yeah.
So what has been like the funnest board to kind of create for the menu?
I like the Baja board. I think making your own street tacos is super fun, and you're ripping up that chicken that we, based all kind of beautiful things on it and roast it, and you have all kind of fun things, and you can make all kind of crazy tacos. The cool thing is with the tortillas, you get the board for one, I get the board, and I can rip off of yours and make my own tacos with what you have too, and so the Baja is probably the most fun to me.
I don't know. I think the ideas for the boards are endless, right?
Oh no, I have a list. It's just like as long as my arm, and so it's hard because it's not this easy process to take 10 things that work together on a board, develop the recipes, and then make it make sense in the kitchen, because you only have so much space. You only can hold so many things in a 686 square foot kitchen, but the ideas are limitless.
They're fun,
I mean.
yeah.
Well, they need to work it from a menu and pricing standpoint. I mean, how
Yes.
do you then the pricing, the economics of that is just, I'm
Right.
sure it's like an equation all in and of itself.
Yeah.
How much you put into that, how much you
Yeah.
put into that, and like that's
Yeah.
just okay. Maybe that price will work.
Yeah, and if you get that wrong, you're not going to be in business too long.
No,
Yeah.
no. You
Yeah.
need a full team for pricing and
Yeah.
portion control,
Yes.
especially on the
For sure.
boards. Is
Yeah.
I'm sure just
And we try to be generous with the portions. There's not many people that don't take home something
Leftovers.
when they order the boards.
yeah, which was also good.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
good.
So I want to talk a little bit about kind of where y'all think this push and this kind of this fearless forecast of coming to a new city with coming from entrepreneurial families, do you think that kind of played a role in like, well, it's just what you do. You go somewhere and you make a business, or was it terrifying to come in here?
I don't think I would make a very good employee, to be honest. I may or may not have been fired from Disney. Let's just say that. So
off the record.
Yeah, off the record. I mean, you had siblings, your parents,
all of my siblings are, they own their own real estate firm. My dad had, car dealership. My mom, after raising 6 kids, went and got her real estate license. I think I was in the 9th grade. And then within 2 years, she was killing it in New Iberia, selling $1 million a year worth of real estate in New Iberia. And so there's always been that drive to go explore, go fail. And when you fail, dust yourself off, learn from it, and keep going. And so,
but I mean, you knew right out of high school you were gone. You were gone.
Oh yeah.
There was Florida, there was LA, there was Louisiana, there was Texas, LA, there was different spots. For me, my older sister had gone out to California, so I went to Texas A&M, and then I knew immediately I wanted to travel. I got to do some fun trips in college, summer in Mexico, a trip to Africa. I knew I wanted to travel after college. I went to London for a year, came back, ended up in LA. So, I mean, there was this part where we had gone to new cities before, right? That's exciting, though, to us. We often talk where other people say
go out there and get broke.
Well, you figure it out, right? There's a big world out there. And I know sometimes when talking with different people, they say that's terrifying. And yet the opposite of that was terrifying for me, to not go explore, to not go and try to figure something out. Is it hard? Absolutely. Did I cry at a train station in London when I didn't have a place to live? Yes. But it doesn't last that long. You get up and you figure it out. And then you also realize, even though there's this very big world, it's a small world, there's amazing people, really cool opportunity. You kind of have to go get lost out there to see what some of the opportunities are. So I think that is one thing about us, that in doing that, it's hard, but nothing is that hard. We talked about moving here and we kept getting worried, and what about our son and all of these things. And we just said, what's the worst thing that can happen? If it doesn't work, then we change it, right? You stay flexible. And I think in our businesses, we've done the same thing, right? We had a high-end modern furniture store, sold expensive furniture and art. We hit a recession. What are things people don't need in a recession? Expensive art.
Furniture. Luxury items.
Accessories.
Right.
All of that.
And we learned some of our most valuable business lessons during that time of what do you actually need? How do you stay true to yourself? What's your brand? What's important?
Probably one of the best things that ever happened to us. That's the craziest thing to say, but like going through the recession, it kind of kicked your teeth in, and then you realize what's important to family, what's important to business, what's important in general. And you find all these people coming in like negative, and they're like, how are you still open? What are you, wow, man, the economy is just terrible. And then you look at our big garage door open to the weather of San Diego, and we still have some beautiful things in there. And we looked at each other and we're like, we have to, every person that's negative, just flip it. And we have to say something positive to them. And then you see this person not know how to answer it. And they're just like, it kind of boggles their minds. And then they leave you, and all they can think is like, wow, I just tried to kick that guy's teeth in with negativity, and it didn't happen. And so you hope they either stop doing that or do it themselves. Right. And so that's what we would try to be positive during this whole time. And then when we have a restaurant that's 4 months old, and all of a sudden there's a pandemic.
That's never happened in our lifetime.
Yeah, that's never happened in our lifetime. That wasn't in our business plan. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, so what do? Let's do meal delivery. I joke about it all the time. I'm like, if somebody would have pulled up and said, I want 4 salads and an oil change, I'd have been like, let's do it. I gotta pay some people back here.
Right.
So, I mean, you figure out what to do, and you stay positive, and you roll with the punches, and you keep moving. And
there's also a beauty in our partnership, that the things that we handle, like when one of us is
yin
kind
and
of
yang,
freaking out, the other one's focused on, we've got this, we can do this.
If you freak out together at the same time, you're in major trouble with any partner, business, love.
I mean, it happens.
Personal,
right?
whatever. Absolutely. So I can freak out about something, and she'll be like, no, it's fine. We're going to do this, and we're going to fine. And then one day she'll be like, I'm done. This is crazy. And I'm like, no, things are good. we're good. And we go back and forth.
But it
and
was the same thing. I'm
that's
going
a
to jump
big
back to
help.
that when all that happened and it was crazy. And for us, again, failure wasn't an option. It
No.
was like, we flipped the model then. This is fun. We'll do, hey, oh my gosh, we have cocktail mixes. We're doing grown-up Easter basket delivery, whatever. But we had amazing customers. We still talk about that. It's one of our
Yes.
favorite things when a new team member joins. We'll hear someone that's been on our team for a while say to them, oh, we have the best customers here. Customers have been amazing. They've been
Amazing.
so supportive. We had those 4 months with them. And I mean, they would come in and that was huge for us. Not only did they accept what we were doing, some of these things that were different, there's amazing people in this town, right? And they were awesome. So amazing team, amazing customers. That changes everything, right? I mean, we were sitting there, no one could sit on our patio, right? We had never been open spring. There was this gorgeous spring weather.
The best
No one could
weather
eat out.
in
And we were
the
like,
world
well, we're going to
at
have
that
management
time.
meetings outside, But when you look back at some of those things, those lessons of we didn't sit there and go, oh, what are we going to do? It was like, no, like really, what are we
not
going to do?
gonna do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do today? What do you
Yeah.
want to do? What's an
Right.
idea? What's crazy? Let's just do it. And you throw it out there and you have to just remove some of that fear sometimes. Because you still got to get through the day.
Yeah. And when failure's not an option, you got to do what you got to do to
You
make
got
it
to
work.
do what
Yeah.
you got to do. Yeah.
So as we start to kind of wind down the show, we have a set list of hard-hitting questions we like to ask every single guest. So the first one is, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
More than 20 push-ups. No,
That's a good one.
gosh. I think just like free time. Like I wish I had more free time to do the things I'd want to do. And I think you take it for granted when you're young, how much free time you actually have. Like, even pre-kids, I think you think you're just so busy. And I look back now having the business and having 2 kids and a wife and I look back and I go, what the heck was I doing with my time? Like I must have had a ton of it. Now I had a good time and it was great, but I don't know. I think it's time. I don't know. I used to like driving
Like dancing
golf
and
carts.
performing. That was my
There you
thing,
go.
right? Yeah. Dancing, performing, kind of the like no fear, no
She's
filter.
talking about her now, by the way. No.
Oh, okay, we switched.
They're dancing for you.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, there's something about like there's that no fear. You're not afraid to try anything.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know. You'd go into a weekend and it was like you could have plans that would last 4 months, but you think it's doable because it's a
Yeah.
weekend or summertime. I don't know. I think kind of that like imagination of just creativity and just going with it. I want to put a play on in the yard. You're like, okay,
Just do it.
yeah. I don't know. That's where I
love
jumped to.
Those are great. So what are 3 lessons y'all have learned along the way?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think
Flexibility.
be flexible in whatever you do. Not necessarily physically, for me personally, but I think, what do we say? Like, always be positive. I think that is, man, the world is so crazy right now and it's so easy to go negative on anything that happens. And so I think being
There's
positive.
a lot to be
is
grateful for and
Oh my
thankful for
gosh,
each day.
yes. So, and the world's still like, opportunity is out there. Opportunity, you just have to go for it. And I think that's number 2. What would be the third?
Flexibility. That.
Oh,
I mean,
good,
I don't
dead
know.
air.
I don't know how to say like kindness, but like people matter.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that, I guess, maybe as succinctly as we need for this show, but I think it's something in any business that we've had as people, as parents. It's something we talk to our team about. The idea that everyone wants to be acknowledged. Everyone has something to offer. Every single person that walks in our door, takes our trash out, delivers a package, a vendor, everyone has a story. Everyone has something to offer. And I think in the busyness of our world, we forget those things. And I think, even for us, sometimes we have to stop ourselves, the focus of, getting through the to-do list or the task list or the team meetings. And sometimes just stopping and remembering, like, it kind of goes with the grateful and thankful. But kindness, like there's just, I go off on this. I mean, he stops me often when we're either interviewing someone or newly hiring someone or team meetings. There's not enough in our world. And I think that kindness and acknowledgement go hand in hand. And I think that could improve so many things if we all just stop long enough and acknowledge, like, you have a story. You have something to offer. Like, open the ears a little bit more. Listen.
No,
I think that's an important
100%.
lesson.
I'd let her keep talking, man.
Yeah, I am. I just learned a whole lot.
So, being coming from different parts of the country and settling here in Baton Rouge, or deciding to move here to Baton Rouge, what is something y'all love about this place?
I mean, the people, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, the people have been amazing to us. Like, we would not have made it through the pandemic. We wouldn't have gotten investors.
But, you know, we moved here. We talked about this. We moved here, and I forget which happened first. It was the police shootings and the flooding, all within our first year and a half of living here, right?
Yeah.
It was, I mean, our friends were like, what is going on where you live
Yeah,
now?
they were like, what's going on there? And I'm like, well, that was 1.5 miles from my house, and it was crazy.
But we talk about it. It was living here during that time. It was amazing. People, you saw the soul and the kindness of people, right? It's why we were here. The Southern hospitality, neighbors looking out for each other. I mean, some of the chefs and restaurant owners that we met because we didn't know anyone, right? And we were like, we're going to Celtic Studios, and we're going to just bring a barbecue pit, and we're going to just cook for people, or we're going to go to this church.
We went to Santa Ma and cooked with people. We met so many great people at that time.
But it was the idea that everyone just came together, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful, right? In the face of tragedy, seeing the beautiful souls and hearts of people is a big deal. And I as crazy as it was for us, it was like, we've made the right decision. This is the right place to raise our family. This is the right place to have a business. This is the right place to put roots down and call home.
Makes sense, yeah.
So the people are a big thing. And then certainly as it went into business, customers and vendors and, you know, just people who have supported us, it's been
amazing. Yeah.
So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
I think you're kind of doing it like with this show, just talking about entrepreneurialism, talking about the city, talking about all of these different things.
Stories.
Actually, I think that's how you help us small business people or whatever. Like I think that's a good thing.
Well, I think learning stories for the cities. I think the city still has a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
You know, we do talk about, we moved from San Diego as this outdoor city, right? It's known for its beauty, its weather, this sort of thing. There's a lot of really great things Baton Rouge has. I don't know that everything's being taken advantage of in the ways that it could be. I think there's a lot of things that can be worked on. But I think it's open discussions, and I think it's business owners and entrepreneurs and people who believe in the city and love the city getting together and chatting
making it better.
We're trying to put a path right in front of our business. Doesn't seem like a big deal. It's been 3 years of work. There's a lot of support behind it. But what's been amazing is, we have customers that walk in that just say, hey, we heard you're doing this. I don't know how to help. Here's $20. How do I help?
Yeah. Where can I send, $500 or $100? And,
a lot of people want to improve.
They want this city to move in the right direction. And, there's a lot of ways that it can, but the people that we talk to are trying their best. And it's, I think we all know there's a lot of red tape, and there's a lot of, things going on that I don't think happen for the best for the city. And we're actually hoping that it can turn a corner and get better, from the crime to how great this city could be in general. We are on the Mississippi River. We are an hour and 25 minutes from New Orleans. This city should stand alone. People should come to LSU games and go, I'm coming a day early because I'm going to go on Thursday because there's so much to do, and it needs to get there. The lakes, the bike paths, the things to do in this city. This is an amazing place, and it could be like one of the greatest cities, I think, in America. It's got all the potential in the world. We got the Mississippi River right here.
But it's got to have people that, we're new to the city, right? So I don't say that I'm from here, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
And we're raising our kids here.
Right. I'm also from Texas, right? So I'm a public school person.
Yeah.
So the schooling here is something I'm still wrapping my head around a little bit. But I think just from, we trying to bring in executive chef, trying to bring in different people, not trying to bring in, but hiring for some of these positions at the moment when they're looking at where they're going to, we keep losing them to Houston, to New Orleans. to Atlanta, different places. So there's this part of like those of us that live here understand these great things that are here, but something's not connecting. And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, but I think some of the things we've run into along the path, there's crime issues that obviously have me very concerned as a parent. But I think it's going to take people like you having a show talking about it, people like us with a business, people invested in, whether with customers or with team members, there's got to be something where we can't just keep talking about it. We have to start figuring out how we can affect change.
Right.
And maybe whether that's dollars, whether that's action, whether it's getting more involved in some of these programs in the city. No one has the perfect answer for how you can affect change faster. I think there's a lot of really great projects going on, but I do think it's something that people have to keep talking about, keep bringing up, and keep putting heads together. I mean, we were amazed just doing that path, right? There were 4 businesses that got together. And from that, all of a sudden, a PR team was like, wait, we want to be involved in this. Hey, wait, we have this other project. Hey, how can we work together? And from that, we have met so many people and so many other projects going on. So now, how do we grab all that passion, right? We say if small business owners ran the city.
Yeah. The frustrating thing is, that's the point I was about to make, is you're in some of these meetings and how long these good ideas take to actually come to fruition is very frustrating, because when you're a small business owner, you want it now, and there's no option because you have money you borrowed, or you have timing, you got to start making money, you have to support your family, you have to go. And so when you see things that are good ideas but then take so long to act, if they even happen, to implement, it's frustrating. And so I think that's like, the bike path is one example, but there's a bunch of great ideas. But like, let's go. Like, let's get
the
I
ball
think
rolling
that's the
some kind of
frustrating thing.
Well, I think what y'all are doing is the foot in the right direction, and recognizing it's going to take time and accepting that patience is right now the sad reality, but hopefully not that of the future.
Yes.
And it's finding that balance though, because the patience, if you wait, you could wait a long time. And that's where we had the full support of everyone in the city on this project, but it wouldn't move forward. And so it took.
We were like, if you don't have support, how long do these things take? Like, everybody was in on this thing.
But it took all of us, like grassroots between our businesses and some residents, coming up with $40,000 so that we could get the survey to happen, because it was going to take a year before they would do the survey. Right. So I bring that up just as the idea that sometimes you do have to push a little bit. If you just accept that it's going to take a year and a half, we might be looking and still talking about these things 5 to 10 years from now. So it's finding a balance between understanding there's a process, but also having a public so involved and so passionate about their city to want to make change that they start to put dollars and time towards some of these projects.
A lot of times, in anything you do, if you say no, you don't have to really do anything. You don't have to work. But if you say yes, it's go time. And now you have to work, and you have to put pen to paper, and you have to make a plan, and you have to take time to do it. The yes is a lot of work. The no or the maybe puts the work aside, and you don't have to work. So it's like one of those things, like the yeses need to start like, let's go. Like, you know what I mean?
And start actually making the work happen.
Yes.
So thank y'all so
Thank
very
you.
much for coming on the show. I really apprete it. Thank you for your time.
I feel like I get distracted very easily. So
Oh,
thank
no,
you.
y'all were great. That was fantastic.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, the first half of this was really positive. No, I'm kidding.
No, we ended on a positive note. What are you
Yeah, we
talking
did,
about?
we
We
did.
said
That's
that having the ability to find the balance between the patience and the wanting to go
Yeah.
is the important middle that we have to find as a city. And I think it's going to take everybody kind of wrapping their head around that, like what y'all were saying, with the people coming together to get the 40,000. You've got to, as a community, say, okay, it's going to take time. We accept that, but let's start doing some incremental movements right now to kind of get the
Right.
ball rolling. So
That's good.
it was.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, thank y'all for coming on.
Appreciate
And
it.
thank you everybody else for watching or tuning in the show. I really appreciate it, and the guests do as well. Look, let's hear your voice. Let's hear what you have to say about Baton Rouge, whether it's the culinary scene or maybe points of improvement. Send them to the show, and if they're within the wheelhouse of what the guest is, we'll talk about it. We'll start bringing up more topics that y'all are wanting to hear discussed and finding solutions and start implementing them in whatever way we can. So by all means, if you got some ideas or something, reach out to us, and we're going to see what we can start doing from the show side of getting things moving. So thank y'all so very much, and thank you again for the wonderful partners that make this show possible each and every week. Hear a little bit more about them right now.
Sell your home for a $399 flat fee with Falaya. No, seriously. Falaya will list your home on the MLS and help you get all the way to the closing table for as little as a $399 flat fee. Our online platform is insanely easy to use and will save you thousands. If you're thinking about selling your home in 2022 and want to keep more of your hard-earned equity in your pocket, you need to check out Falaya. Falaya, real estate reimagined.
Thank you all so very much for listening to this episode of the Patty G Show, brought to you by Government Taco. They're located on the corner of Government Street and Jefferson Highway. Jay is always slinging up a new taco of the month, so if you're a frequenter to Government Taco, let us know in the comments what you thought about this month's taco of the month. If you're not a frequenter, maybe trying out this month's taco might just convert you. Big thanks over to them at Government Taco for making the Patty G Show possible.
Imagine taxiing on a plane looking toward the end of the runway. It seems so far away, it's even hard to see it. And that's what the concept of retirement probably felt like when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, way far in the distance, not visible or even a concern. But as you turn 50, something happens. Retirement suddenly seems like something real, something not too far away. In your 50s, you are rolling down the runway. Retirement is getting closer and closer, faster and faster, weeks and months zipping by. But are you even ready for a successful takeoff to retirement? Fear not, there's still runway left. But the time is now. Time to make progress and time to get a plan. The Runway Decade will help you get organized, get energized, and give you the direction you need to take off to your desired retirement. The Runway Decade, building a pre-retirement flight plan in your 50s.
Thank you to Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge for making this show possible. Nick Pintus is a past guest. We love having him on. Listening to him talk about the culture they have over at Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge is really an incredible thing to hear. How they treat not only their employees, but every customer that walks through the door. You are more than just a number to them. They're going to give you that white glove concierge service every step of the way. They're going to make you feel like family and take what can be a stressful time in people's life, shopping for a car. They're going to make it so enjoyable and so pleasurable. You're going to want to go back there time and time again for every new vehicle. Thank you so very much for Mercedes-Benz of making this show possible. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out, Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you. Thank you so very much to Currency Bank, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show. If you are looking for a business bank that fosters on three core values, relationships, service, and technology, Currency Bank is the place for you. They pride themselves on convenient, accessible, and secure online banking resources where you can manage your account balances, initiate transfers, enroll with e-statements, and more via their online portal. Between the relationships, the service, and the technology, they are going to be that partner with your business every step of the way, regardless of what you need. Currency Bank is the bank for business owners. McClavy's Limited, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show, has been serving the Baton Rouge area proudly for 40-plus years. Gentlemen and ladies, if you're shopping for your man, there is no other place in the Baton Rouge area to get your clothing, whether it's game day needs, everyday needs, business attire, formal attire, whatever you want. Go over there, see Frank and Ashley. It's a father-daughter duo. They do incredible things in their store. They will outfit you from as simply a shirt that you need for one evening, or all the way to a full wardrobe overhaul. They're going to take care of you every step of the way, and be sure to let them know that Patty G Show sent you.
Simple man, don't want a complication.